In January of 1947, Russell Allen McNeil met Hilton Lucille Cox in the small town of Stuttgart, Arkansas. At age 21, Rusty had just finished a 5-year tour of military service in the South Pacific as a member of the elite U.S. Marine Raiders. Hilton was a 19-year-old cashier at the midget grocery store. As I heard them say many times, it was love at first sight. 1 month later, they were married in the living room of my Uncle Bob's house there in Stuttgart. They remained married for the next 58 years, until my father died in 2005 at the age of 80. Barely 1 year after their marriage, my sister Sharon was born. Then I came along. I was born on January 23, 1949, at the Champion Clinic in Stuttgart, Arkansas, the same small town in which my parents were married. That's me with a big head. After me came 2 sisters, Glenna and Deanna, and then my brother Bart. My father was one of 13 children, so I grew up in a large extended family of grandparents, aunts, uncles, and lots of cousins. Neither of my parents graduated from high school. But after my father's combat tour was over, the Marines sent him to China, where he was trained to repair typewriters, adding machines, and other office equipment. So, although he worked a number of second jobs throughout the years, my father mainly supported my mother and 5 children as an office machine repairman. Jobs seemed to come and go for my dad, and we moved quite a bit between Texas and Arkansas as he searched for work. As a result, I attended a number of different public schools from 1st through 4th grade. By all accounts, though, I adapted well, learning to meet new friends and say goodbye to old ones, unaware that I was impacting my teachers and others along the way.
Dear Mrs. McNeil, I am certainly glad Bobby entered our school. It has been a real pleasure to be his teacher. He is an excellent student and a very fine boy. I am proud of him, and I know you are too. He had not had as much arithmetic as we had when he entered, but he worked hard and he caught up and is doing fine now. I feel a little sad when the time comes for giving up the students like Bobby who make teaching such a joy. Sincerely yours, Mrs. Daniels.
Growing up in a small town, I played a variety of sports, beginning with Little League Baseball, where I consistently made the All-Star team. Here I am among the Cubs, Pirates, and Redbirds, proudly representing my team, the Odds. Later, I played on the high school football, basketball, track, baseball, and golf teams. I was an honor student throughout my school years, and as a high school freshman, I was chosen to be part of a learning experiment in which certain gifted students were assigned to Mr. Fossler's advanced mathematics classes for the next 4 years. During that time, I learned to study hard, take on challenges, and not shy away from problems that seemed to have no solution. My first attempt at politics came in my sophomore year of high school, when I was elected class president. In my senior year, I was elected president of the high school chorus. On May 25, 1967, I graduated in the top 10% of my class at Channelview High School, and it was time to say goodbye to the many friends I had made over the years.
Dear Bob, analytics would be unbearable without your subtle hints of humor to brighten up Mr. Fossler's jokes. I will remember you always for your intelligence, humor, and surfer haircuts and clothes. You have a lot of style. When you are a millionaire like Arnold Palmer, why don't you give me money for my ranch in Texas? I'd appreciate it. All my love, Crispin.
My father always stressed to me the importance of an education. So in the fall of 1967, I enrolled in the University of Houston to study biophysics. I had to study in high school to get good grades, but at age 18, I was in no way prepared for the freedom of college. You don't want to go to class? Fine, don't go. You don't feel like studying? Okay, then don't. So after failing most of my classes in both the fall and spring semesters, I was placed on academic suspension. In America in 1968, all able-bodied men 18 years and older were subject to being drafted to serve a 6-year tour of duty in the military. Along with my academic suspension from college came the loss of my student deferment from the draft. So on June 6, 1968, I received a letter from the Selective Service ordering me to report for a physical exam at 5 a.m. on June 19th. Despite the fact that I wore thick eyeglasses, I passed the physical exam. And as a 19-year-old boy, I was now faced with my first major life decision. My family has a long history of honorable military service to this country, so I never gave a thought to moving to Canada. Instead, I chose to follow in the footsteps of my father and enlist in the United States Marine Corps, the finest fighting force in the world. I began boot camp in San Diego, California in January of 1969 and was assigned to Platoon 1004. It was there that I learned the virtues of duty, loyalty, honor, valor, and sacrifice. 10 weeks later, I emerged a strong, confident young man, ready to take on any challenge placed before me. When I graduated from boot camp, I was assigned the job of electronics technician and was sent to various schools to learn that trade. As in high school, I excelled in my studies and was promoted to Lance Corporal, Corporal, and Sergeant in 3 years. In 1970, while home on leave, I met my future wife, Sandy, a beautiful, vivacious young woman of Irish and Mexican heritage. We were married in April 1971 and moved to Virginia, where I was stationed at Quantico Air Base. I completed my tour of duty in January 1972 and received an honorable discharge. Sandy and I left Virginia and drove home to Houston, where both of our families lived. I was a different person at age 23 than I was at 18, and had come to understand how wise my father was when he talked about the value of a good education. So in September of 1972, I re-entered the University of Houston for my second attempt at college. My wife worked a full-time job, and my tuition and books were paid for by the GI Bill. So I buckled down and took on class loads of 15 to 21 hours per semester. I graduated 3 years later in December of 1975 with a bachelor's degree in accounting, earning a 3.3 grade average out of a possible 4.0. I was recruited by a number of corporations and CPA firms in Houston, but decided to accept an entry-level accounting position with Tenneco Oil Company. As the years went by, I demonstrated a good work ethic and was promoted to levels of increasing responsibility. I eventually moved out of accounting and into the role of corporate auditor. Within 5 years, I was responsible for auditing all functions of one of the company's largest divisions, with over $100 million in annual revenues and expenses. From that experience, I learned to evaluate complicated systems to determine where problems exist, analyze data to identify the causes, and plan and implement strategies to solve them. Life was good, and I enjoyed spending time with my family. Sandy and I bought our first house and started a family of our own, bringing 2 beautiful daughters, Kelly and Casey, into the world. But although my career prospered, my marriage did not, and I was divorced in 1983. Over the next 15 years, I was a child support paying dad who drove 500 miles round trip on weekends to attend birthday parties, watch drill team performances, and cheer at soccer games. These are the things that every father who loves his children would do to maintain and strengthen those relationships. As much as I love being a father, I also enjoy being a single man. It has allowed me the freedom to experience a very full life and requires me to be solely responsible for my decisions. I have traveled for work and pleasure to many states and a number of countries, where I easily made new friends, absorbed the local culture, and returned home with lifelong memories. I express the artistic side of my brain through photography, but the logical side of my brain is always working to find common-sense solutions to everyday problems. I have demonstrated that by obtaining 2 patents and being given the award for Most Creative Client by an international patent law firm. In 1994 and 1995, I volunteered my time as treasurer of the nonprofit Houston Inventors Association, and in 1996, I was elected president of that organization. For over 15 years now, I have been self-employed as a contract compliance consultant, working for some of the largest oil and gas companies in the world. As a son, a brother, a loving father, a proud grandfather, and a trusted friend, this is the life of Bob McNeil.